Today, we're digging into the early days of Microsoft. We've got a source called Gates, Rivalry and Collaboration in Early Microsoft.
And we're focusing on a really interesting slice of that, a section titled Bill Gates' Unexpected Friendships. It's more than just a nice anecdote, though. It really unpacks some key moments, strategic thinking, and, well, intense competition back in the early 80s that shaped the company.
Right. And what's fascinating, what we really want to unpack for you is this narrative of a pretty fierce rivalry turning into something else entirely, a deep friendship, a collaboration all happening in, 1983. It challenges that idea that competition has to be purely destructive.
Hmm.
Here, it seems like it actually helped build something big.
Exactly. That's the core tension, isn't it? You're in this high stakes, almost winner take all tech scene. And the question the source implicitly asks is what makes a leader choose to collaborate, to value talent and a shared goal over just crushing the competition? We're looking for how trust gets built in that kind of pressure cooker.
Okay, so let's set the scene. 1983. Microsoft isn't the giant it is today. It's growing fast, yeah, but it's scrappy, hungry. The whole PC market is exploding, but it's also messy. Things aren't standardized yet. The race for operating system dominance, it's intense. Every move counts.
Absolutely. 1983 is pivotal. Personal computers are taking off, but it's fragmented. Different machines, different OS attempts. Everyone's trying to make them easier to use. And the source introduces a key figure here, a fictional rival named Sarah, described as a really brilliant coder heading up her own startup.
And they weren't just like in the same general area. The source says they were pitching very similar software. Think about 83 maybe early attempts at graphical interfaces on top of DOS or clever memory management tools, stuff aimed at making those early PCs less intimidating.
hmm They were essentially fighting for the same very limited real estate on those first consumer PCs, attention, memory, everything. If Microsoft locked down that kind of interface or tool set, Sarah's company might just disappear if she won that space. Microsoft faces a huge obstacle. So yeah, this wasn't a minor skirmish. It was fundamental about market structure, really.
And that dynamic, that feeling that only one could survive, must have just amped up the pressure incredibly. You've got these two really smart, driven leaders probably convinced the other is the main roadblock.
And it all comes to a head, according to the source, at a big tech conference. The kind of place where deals get made, reputations are cemented. This was it, the big demo, both companies ready to show off their competing products. A lot riding on it.
Yeah, and here's where the narrative takes a sharp turn. Right at the peak moment Sarah's ready to present. And her demo just crashes, fails completely. In front of everyone, press, potential partners, the works.
Yeah, a total disaster for her. But the source adds a crucial detail. It wasn't just a bug. It calls it a fictional sabotage plot. Some outside player trying to disrupt things. So the rivalry was real, but this failure, it was external interference.
Right. And here's where it gets really interesting. Looking at Gates's reaction to the lens of this source, his main competitor is suddenly dramatically sidelined. The path is clear for him. But that's not what he does.
Yeah.
He doesn't seize the moment to promote his own stuff.
That's the pivot point in the story. You'd expect maybe quiet relief or just moving on with his own pitch. But the source attributes his next move to his real competitive yet fair nature, which is a strong claim.
Let's push on that a bit, though. Was it pure fairness? Or could it have been maybe a very quick, very smart strategic calculation? He sees the demo fail, sure. But he probably also sees how Sarah reacts, maybe gets a glimpse of the code itself as they try to fix it. Could this have been a lightning-fast talent assessment? An acquisition opportunity presenting itself?
That's a really good point. And the source doesn't necessarily rule that out, does it? It leaves space for that strategic interpretation. What's key, though, is that even if it was calculated, a way to maybe test her skills or see the potential value, it still required him to invest his own time right then and there and show immediate trust. He must have recognized the value in her code, her talent, despite the sabotage, helping her recover it. That instantly changes the whole game. It moves from, I need to beat you, to, I respect what you've built.
So we go from this public spectacle to, a late-night coding session? The two rivals, suddenly temporary colleagues, huddled over a keyboard, trying to fix this broken demo. And that shared pressure, that intense focus on solving the problem together, that becomes the turning point.
And the source suggests the conversation shifted too. It wasn't just debugging. They started talking bigger picture, architecture, philosophy. It mentions them bonding over shared dreams of tech accessibility, finding common ground beyond the immediate competition.
And that's the bridge, isn't it? The rivalry was about who wins the current market slice. But this shared vision, This idea of making tech truly usable for everyone, that's a much bigger goal. They realized they were aiming for the same destination, even if they'd been taking different roads to get there.
You have to remember the context of '83. Making PCs accessible was a huge challenge. Limited memory, clunky interfaces. It was tough. So it makes sense they might realize, working together on that code, that maybe neither of their approaches alone was the complete answer, that combining ideas was the way forward.
And the immediate result, according to the source, Sarah joins Microsoft. So the rivalry doesn't end with one company crushing the other. It ends with the talent, the core ideas getting integrated.
Yeah, and think about the signal that sends inside Microsoft and to the outside world, bringing in a major recent competitor like that. It says, "We value talent and good ideas more than past fights." It suggests a confidence, a focus on building the best thing, regardless of where the ideas come from.
So Sarah's now at Microsoft, and the source says she has a real impact. It mentions fresh ideas that shape Windows. We're not talking small fixes here. It sounds like potentially fundamental contributions to how Windows developed.
Exactly. What's fascinating here is speculating what those contributions might have been in the early Windows context. Coming from a competing startup, her approach to, say, graphics management or maybe user workflows might have been totally different, perhaps cleaner or more intuitive in some way. Maybe her team had solved a tricky memory problem that Microsoft was still wrestling with.
Right. If Microsoft's focus was, say, heavily on DOS compatibility, maybe Sarah brought a stronger push for a more user-centric design or a more modular architecture. That outside perspective could have been crucial, making sure Windows didn't just become an extension of the existing way of thinking. Her ideas weren't just tacked on, they influenced the core.
It really does suggest a certain intellectual confidence within early Microsoft. They were willing to absorb and integrate a challenging, different viewpoint. You often see that, right?
Right.
Bringing in a former rival, if handled well, can lead to huge leaps forward because they bring a completely different set of tools and assumptions.
And the story doesn't just end with her getting a job and contributing to the product. There's a final gesture mentioned. The source highlights Bill Gates inviting Sarah to a Gates family dinner. That feels significant.
Oh, absolutely, especially back then in that intense, all-consuming startup culture of the '80s. Work and life were deeply intertwined for founders. An invitation like that isn't just casual friendliness, it's a powerful signal. In that environment, trust was everything. Bringing a former competitor into your personal circle, that's a major statement. It builds deep loyalty.
It's like saying, okay, you're not just an employee, not even just a key contributor. You're part of the inner circle now. We trust you completely. And that kind of trust, that commitment, was probably essential for keeping top-tier talent like Sarah invested, especially as Microsoft was growing so rapidly.
Precisely. It cemented the collaboration. It ensured her contributions continued. The trust wasn't just based on a contract. It was rooted in how the founder acted during that critical moment at the conference and reinforced personally afterwards.
So what's the takeaway here for you listening? This narrative, drawn from the source, shows how intense competition like the 1983 tech scene doesn't have to end in destruction. It can actually, unexpectedly, lead to really deep collaboration and even friendship. The key catalyst here wasn't just abstract fairness. It was finding that shared, higher purpose making tech accessible that overshadowed the immediate rivalry.
Yeah, it makes you think differently about competition itself. The rivalry probably pushed both of them to be better, sharper, but it was recognizing those shared values that unlocked the real potential. When the mission feels bigger than just your product or your company's immediate win, sometimes collaboration just makes the most sense strategically.
Which kind of leaves us with a final thought, building on this source material. We tend to see our competitors as just obstacles, right? People or companies to beat. But think about it. If that intense competition forces you to really look at and maybe even respect what your rival is doing well, how often might our best potential partners be hiding right there inside our toughest rivalries? What opportunities might your current competitive landscape hold for an unexpected, game-changing partnership if you approached it with an eye for shared goals, maybe, instead of just zero-sum thinking? Something to consider.